It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. Thanks for joining us again for another podcast. We got Peter Lawrence joining us.
Hi there.
Peter. And we have superfan Chad Juettner.
Hello.
Which is good because we're talking baseball today.
It's just baseball, right?
Just baseball.
The whole thing. Here's the thing. We're going to talk about baseball.
We'll bring AI into it, but don't you worry. And probably SharePoint too. There's SharePoint baseball.
Sabermetrics, perhaps, Moneyball. Tell us a baseball story, Chad.
I can tell you the story of Doc Ellis. Doc Ellis is he was a pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, mostly. Right. And Doc Ellis threw a no-hitter. Right. So a no-hitter is when a pitcher throws a game and nobody gets hit. Right. People can still get on base. They can still walk. He can hit the guy with the ball, get him on base. But as long as nobody actually gets a single, double, triple, or home run, counts as a no-hitter. But the great thing about Doc Ellis is that in June of 1970, I'm trying to think when it was. It was in the 70s. Doc Ellis was pitching. And the night before he was scheduled to pitch, he went out with his buddies. And they did a lot of things. They drank. They had a great time. Illegal substances were huge at the time. And so they partied all night and into the morning. Doc lost track of the day, forgot that he was supposed to pitch. And so Doc went to the game. He was on all sorts of illicit drugs and ended up pitching for the Pirates against San Diego, and he pitched a no-hitter, which is an impossible thing to do straight sober, right?
Right.
The fact that he did this when he was seeing, if you watch some of the interviews with him, he's up front about it. Like, he's like, yeah, sometimes the batter was like 3 times the size, and sometimes he was just like this little speck, and then sometimes he was this, and it was this. And I was like, once I threw a fastball and I saw a rainbow behind it. And then he's telling all these stories about how he threw this ridiculous game that people can't do, like, and nobody got a hit on him. I think he walked a guy or two.
I mean, including him, right? He didn't go out and pitch no-hitters every night.
Right. Yeah, he did. It wasn't really like, I mean, he's a good pitcher, right? He had a long 12-year career in the majors. And that was, I mean, he wasn't bad by any means.
No, that sounds like a great career.
Yeah, he was, but he only made the All-Star game once, right? So he's just like, he's just like a guy, like the 70s equivalent of, Bailey Ober, right? Bailey Ober is a great pitcher, and I'm sure Bailey's going to have a wonderful career, but Bailey Ober's not going to, he's probably not going to be an all-star. He's probably going to be a guy that we can count on to keep another team down below, 4 or 5 runs, give the offense a chance, and win us some games.
So one thing I was kind of fascinated by or questioned was, it's Doc as in the boat, not Doc as in the nickname for Doc Baseball or Dr. Baseball, right?
Yeah, that's just his name, Doc. D-O-C.
Just D-O-C-K.
So he's not Doc Holliday.
No.
Okay.
No.
It's interesting. I think that having maybe that distraction took him out of his own head, so he wasn't like overthinking and worried or any of those factors that might impact his performance. But instead, he was throwing rainbows. Yeah, he had extra pitches that day in his arsenal. He had the slider, the knuckleball, the rainbow, all sorts
trailer.
Of the tracer. So what does that do for his stats, like lifetime stats and rankings and all of that kind of stuff?
Do they put an asterisk by his it's performance enhancing drugs? Or does it count the same as Sammy Sosa and what's his name? Mark
McGwire.
Mark McGwire,
Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds. Yeah. So no, I don't think. At the time, he didn't. They didn't really. I mean, it counted. They didn't test for a lot of things back then, and he was fine.
An amazing story.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful story, and that's the thing about baseball, right? Like you can't play basketball in that state, I wouldn't think. You can't play football in that state. You can't play hockey. You can't play soccer. You can't play any other game in the shape that he was in and still be as successful as he was. And that's in my head, like that's kind of one of the things that makes baseball so special. Like, remember for the Twins, remember Williams Astudillo? One of my favorite players of all time, Williams Astudillo, right? So Williams Astudillo, he's a Venezuelan fella, and he does not look like a professional athlete. The fella is...
So you bumped into him in the street, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, there's a baseball player," or
that guy
something.
That is an elite athlete, right? So Williams Astudillo is 5'9", 225 pounds, and this unit, right?
Right.
The thing that was special about him was that for a season and a half, I'll say, he was almost impossible to strike out, right? Like he would see the ball and he would only swing at strikes. He rarely swing at anything outside of the strike zone. And so his batting average was, for a while it was 400, which means 4 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
He's getting at least a first. And he was phenomenal. And he looked like he was just like kind of I don't know what I can and can't say. He looked like a little chubby fella. Right. That
Your
was
average overweight American or Venezuelan, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
And the dude was having a blast. There's a picture of Williams Astudillo trying to stretch a double into a triple, right? And he made it to third base. And I don't know if, and the
he
great
did
thing
make
about
it though.
He did, yeah. The great thing about him is he had like a big mullet too, right? Like, so he's got this. He's a little fella round. He's got this mullet. He's running from second to third. His batting helmet, he's running so fast for him that his batting helmet falls off his head, so that in a way that his mullet is just flowing behind him.
Yeah.
And he's just like at full speed, right? Like a nice jog for us. Made it to third.
Not me.
And somebody asked him after the game, he's like, "What were you thinking?" And he told the reporter something along the lines of, "I just wanted to show that no matter how big you are, no matter how small you are, you always try. And even chubby people can run." And he was, it was great. It was a great little story. The picture of him doing that sprint from second to third is immortalized on a T-shirt that the Twins gave away on the next Williams Astudillo. They had a Williams Astudillo day at the ballpark.
Nice.
And they had a picture of him like just full speed, like his head was back. He was trying to be aerodynamic. He was trying to be aerodynamic.
Yeah.
And so Williams did that. And his nickname. Oh God, his nickname. He's got a nickname. He called himself La Tortuga. I mean,
that's awesome.
There you go. I do remember La Tortuga.
Yeah. And so, for a couple of 2-3 years, we didn't know how good we had it as Twins fans. He was 2018, 2019, 2020. We traded him in 2021. At the end of the 2021 season, he got moved to Miami. And I still think about him. He's currently hitting in the Japanese leagues. I think he's
still
the dream
alive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, nice. I mean, you've got Doc Ellis, you got Williams Astudillo. I mean, even Babe Ruth, right? Like Babe Ruth is probably not the hero everybody thinks he is, or even as good as everybody thinks he is. But
I don't remember him as being very spectacularly conditioned.
No, he was a big dude
in the pictures.
Right.
So why was he not especially as good as people think?
Because of the competition, right? Like he didn't play against. Baseball was segregated when Babe Ruth played, right? Or it was resegregated.
Yes.
Imagine playing the game with half of the population that's available at the time. It's ridiculous, right? Like he didn't have to hit against Satchel Paige. I think Satchel Paige would have been rough. Well, maybe Satchel would have been a little beyond him. Satchel would have been his generation.
Satchel was in the 40s.
So the talent pool
Satchel
that
started
were allowed to play, it was not nearly as expansive and as it is now. It's like if you're in a very small conference. You're not playing big schools. You don't have a lot of kids to choose from.
Being the best Division II player, maybe not the.
So it just wasn't the same.
So Satchel pitched from 1927 to, get this, 1965.
Yeah, he had an amazing stretch.
So
And
my favorite pitcher is Juan Berringer, who pitched for the Twins in 1987. Senior Smoke. He had a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and I actually hung out with him one night in Hopkins.
I heard you bought him drinks.
I did. I picked up his tab. We had a great time, and I pitched in high school, and I had a horrible fastball, and I'm bigger and taller and have a belly like he does, and I just don't know how he could pitch that fast. It just amazes me. It still does. Blows me away.
So there's a funny story about Satchel Paige. So Satchel Paige started pitching in 1927, right? In the
Negro
in
Leagues.
the yep, there you go. Got called up into the majors. Well, I guess technically they're all the majors. They retroactively blessed the Negro Leagues as professional baseball stats, which thank God, way out of date. So 1948, 21 years after he made his debut, he was a rookie at like 46 years old.
Yeah.
And dominated for a little bit. Pitched for, and then he pitched St. Louis, and then he retired in 53. Came out of retirement. So the Athletics, then in Kansas City, kind of as a goof, said, "Hey, Satchel, we're going to sign you to a contract." And he didn't think they were kidding, though. So he actually, at like age 65, I think, let me see, he was 65, 1965. Let's see. Yeah, he would have been 59 years old.
He pitched for Rio, right?
He pitched in a game and struck 3 guys out, which is an absolutely insane thing to think about, right? Like right now you think of athletes are like aged out of every sport at around 40, right?
For sure.
Satchel got called up, wasn't in on the joke, and struck 3 guys out. Faced 10 batters, struck 3 of them out. Allowed just a single hit. That doesn't happen in any other sport.
Well, and he came in pretty cold. I mean, it's not like he was...
Well, 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about as cold as you could get. So
imagine coming back and programming after taking 12 years off of programming. Maybe a light programming with your kids in the backyard. Just amazing.
I mean, any career, you just go away for 12 years, right?
Right.
And come back to it.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about the only good thing, maybe debatable, but
we can debate it right here, right now. Bring it.
Rob
baseball.
Rob Manfred is the current commissioner of baseball, and he is almost universally reviled, right? Like for a lot of reasons, right? Like he's trying to shorten the game. Because if anybody's asking for shorter, like less baseball, he's trying to shorten the game. He's trying to introduce rules. He's trying to like do all of these things and to make the game, I don't know, more
television friendly, we'll say.
Yeah. And so like we introduced the pitch clock. He introduced.
What do you think about the pitch clock? Because it's been what, a season and a half now?
Well, it started last season, so we've have 1 full year of the pitch clock, and I don't really hate it, but there's some pitchers right now. I mean, a lot of pitchers are getting hurt early in the season, right? They're tearing, So
do you think that's related?
That's what they're going to explore, is that it might
recovery time between pitches, less recovery time, more likelihood of.
But I do like there's 2 aspects of it, right? There's the pitcher that has to deliver the ball sooner, and then there's the batter that has to be set and ready for a pitch sooner, right? Like it goes both ways. It can't just be, they're not just saying get it, pitch faster. The batter actually has to be in the box, and the batters were half of the problem before too.
At least they were probably more than half.
The amount of time they spend just like doing my God, it was incredibly annoying. Batters aren't getting hurt, pitchers are. So I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. So far the Twins are relatively unaffected by it, but it does seem like very much like there might be some correlation there.
It does speed up the game, and it does like reduce the boring aspect of watching them not play the game on the field and having people come out to the pitching mound and like 20 people have a meeting out there. I liked it, but if it's hurting people, then I think they should put it back.
Well, they've done studies on the average length of games, right? And we shaved about 20 minutes off of a game by doing.
Didn't we go back to like 1980 times or something like that?
Yeah. So like I mean, are folks really, is the ADD really that bad that you can't, that extra 20 minutes that you paid for to go to a game or that you're invested in watching a game, is that really affecting your life that much? I mean, you are paying to go have this experience. And what they're doing is, hey, we want to give a little less of this to you. I mean, yes, it's nicer to see the guys get ready and set faster, but it's going to affect the health of the pitchers that much. I mean, goodness gracious.
Right.
Get rid of it. This year, they did ban the shift. So I'm a huge fan of him banning the shift. So like we know statistically, certain batters hit the ball in certain directions.
Yeah.
And prior to this year, positions for the most part were mostly just recommendations. Like, hey, there's a third base. There should be a third baseman. There's a second base. There should be a second baseman.
Player on each base, right?
Yeah. And shortstop, a pitcher, a catcher, and 3 outfielders. Well, they would say, well, this guy, 85% of the time, he hits it to this area of right field. So they would take the right fielder, put him back deep. The second baseman would play like short right field. The shortstop would play second base, and the third base would play shortstop. Like they would just stack this field with guys. And now they kind of put in rules that say, all right, the shortstop has to start to, the left of second. Second has to start on or to the right of side. Like they're actual zones that each player has to be around.
Chad, when did the shifts start becoming popular? Obviously, in stats-ridden baseball, finding out where people hit the ball probably hasn't been around forever, but it's certainly been around a long time.
So when they started to be egregious about it, they pulled up examples of like it happening in the 70s and 80s a tiny bit, like every once in a while when it was like ridiculous, right?
Well, if somebody always puts it down line, you're gonna be like, well, I know, let's everybody move 10 feet to your left.
Yeah, but back then it was rare. It wasn't a normal, like it wasn't.
Why did they? Because I don't know that would really, I mean, they have the time they have to play the game. Was this the pitcher would wait so that they could shift? Like, was this slowing down the game, the rate of play?
No. It just makes it less exciting, right?
Yeah.
Because you're basically hitting it to an out every time.
Yeah, so I think it was the Pirates that really, like in the late 2000s, like 2008, 9-ish, the Pirates were the team that really, really started implementing it on a regular basis.
They took they said, you know what? We know where they're going to hit the ball. We're just going to put people right there.
Yeah. And so we've all seen Moneyball, right? And Moneyball it's really about like valuing a player's ability to just get on base, right? That was the whole point of the movie.
That was the phrase that the movie chose.
Yeah, a walk is just as good as a hit. Like, we don't care, right? We just need runners on base. We need runners in scoring position, and we just need base runners, right? And so prior to that, we would evaluate players by looking at like basic stats like batting average and doubles, triples, all that stuff, which are still like, I don't discount those as much as some people do these days, but they
had slugging percentages and other stats like that would indicate how offensive they are. Probably not very much of defensive stats, right?
Right. So with the Moneyball stuff, they really aggressively studied offensive capabilities of each individual player. And then they'd put teams together based on how these guys complement each other, right? And then defensively, they started to study the same thing, and it started really with like I think David Ortiz was the player that before they actually had like all of the StatCast stuff that they have now. Like right now, the ball in a stadium is tracked like to the centimeter where it lands and where it goes, and that's all saved.
They have hundreds of cameras, right?
Yeah. So we're in what they call the StatCast era, where like there's so much data about where the players are on the field, where they start, how fast they sprint, what's their, where the ball lands and where the ball is hit to, and the velocity at which the ball is hit, and the launch angle that the ball is hit, and all of these other things. And even before that, all of that information was available to teams. You could just tell that David Ortiz was always going to hit the ball to right field in some way, shape, or form. He always hit. He never pulled, I think, and so teams would just stack that area to get David Ortiz out because it was one of the most egregious examples of it. And now they say you can't do that anymore, right? And it's helped the statistics slightly, maybe there's not as much of a jump as I would have expected, but it's the offensive statistics in baseball are definitely up.
Well, because I'm guessing the batters probably learned to counter that a little bit, right? Like,
well, that was always the idea was that if they shifted, I mean, if the entire defense was on one side of the field, you would just learn to hit to the other side.
Well, even if you can switch hit, you're going to have a dominant.
Yeah,
you can bat lefty, but
whichever hitters were never really shifted against. It was usually the guys that were, they had
they always pulled it, or
you wouldn't see as much of that.
20 people standing, or 20. There's only
those rule
11
changes
guys.
Always give me pause because they're always like comparing stats with historical stats. It's like, well, can you?
No.
If you change the game that much, then it pretty much you got to draw a new line and say, okay, starting from here.
Right. Imagine the stats change if you put aluminum bats into Major League Baseball.
Yeah, or even allow a 2-inch longer bat would make a big difference.
Right.
I think aluminum bats they experimented with briefly. Was that true?
Yeah,
I want to say they did.
They're allowed in college ball, and I don't know if that's still the case, but I don't know if I feel like they did, and then they stopped pretty quickly
In Major League Baseball?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just a try it, see what happens, and oh my gosh, look at what happened. No. But like everything, it takes a while for everybody to switch around. All right, Chad, I've got another question for you.
Yes, sir.
Entrance music. How do you feel about that?
Music. I love it. I love it so much. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily love. Well, we have. I know by I can just hear entrance music and know. Oh, that's Buxton coming to bat, or that's Jeffers coming to bat. Some of our Hispanic players, I don't necessarily know their tunes quite yet. As well, but I can always tell. And then some guys have a lot of fun with it. There's a guy, I think he plays for the Mets this year. Vogelback, kind of built like Tortuga, right? That kind of larger framed gentleman. His song is, I don't know what the title is, if it's the title, but the milkshake song, right? Do you guys know what that one is? My milkshake brings all the point. So the dude comes to bat like this, dude, just absolute friggin' unit, comes to bat, and that milkshake song is playing, and it's just freaking hilarious. And I wish more players would have that, take that that view of the walk-up music. There is a Mets player, Edwin Diaz. He's a relief pitcher. So walk-up music is the most fun when it's relief pitchers coming on, especially really, really good ones, because this guy comes on to the song, the Tommy Trumpet song, Narcos, right? And it's super, it's basically just all trumpet, right? And it almost feels like this old, English court where the guy, they have the trumpets announcing the king or something. The entire Met Stadium, when he comes out, just goes absolutely bonkers because the music is so distinctive. There's this iconic video of him coming out, followed by what looks like a tiny drone, up and behind him. So you see him walk out of the dugout, you see him walk into the stadium, you hear the music going, you see the fans playing pretend trombones or trumpets or whatever. It's nice. Just amazing. We've got a guy like that too. Has this song Fuego, I don't know. But when he comes out, right, to pitch, he's usually our closer, right? Comes out in the ninth usually, or and hopefully not sooner than that. But when the dude comes out, Target Field, and it's wonderful if it's a night game. Target Field, they turn all the lights off.
Oh wow!
And then the wraparound LEDs start throwing these little flames up, right? Yeah. And then so these little flames come on the LEDs, and it's looks like the field's on fire. And then he comes out of the bullpen, and they play this song in, I don't know, Spanish. And it's it's an absolute spectacle. I hope to see. You have to see it. I mean, it's amazing. So imagine the entire field going dark. And it's dark out, right? And you see the flames start to come, and this dude comes out, and he's, this song, and then the dude actually throws, I think he got to 104, 105 last year.
Yeah, we talked about earlier about a 90-mile-an-hour fastball being a
insane
smoking one, and now it's 104.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know there's got to be a peak, right? There's got to be a limit to how hard.
Watching all the pitchers blow out their arms, you figure that there's got to be a limit for sure. But
and that's
who gets there and when.
That's the thing with this. I mean, our manager, his philosophy, and I think this is a common philosophy now with managers, is that even if they're doing pretty okay, they don't want our starting pitchers to go through the batting order 3 times, right? So Rocco Baldelli for the Twins, he'll pull guys usually in like the 6th inning if we're doing pretty good, so that the lineup can't see the same pitcher 3 times in a row, because they start to figure out, or are reminded, what is, where he's going to throw, how, whatever.
What his fastball looks like coming out of the glove. And
so it's not super common anymore. I mean, complete games where a pitcher start to finish just
complete game shutouts are going to be impossible, right?
They're practically impossible. I mean, Peter, you and I play fantasy baseball, and I think that stat is tracked, but we only hit it like 5 times last year. I don't know how many total complete games there were last year, but
not a lot.
And that
it should come from more points.
You can't hit a no-hitter then.
Well, so that's the time that they'll leave you in. If you're throwing a no-hitter, they will try to leave you in. Although lately we've had a handful of combined no-hitters. There was just a no-hitter fella from the Astros in his 5th major league start threw a no-hitter. And that's, I mean, the no-hitter is kind of subjective still. Like a lot of the stats, especially on the pitching side, are so a pitcher gets a win if it's a starting pitcher and if they pitch at least 5 full innings, and if the team wins, that's the number one thing. And if the team was lead, if you had the lead when you were taken out, right? Now, if you're taken out and you're given, you were behind, but your team still wins. Well, the pitcher that was pitching when your team went ahead gets the win, even if they only pitched for 1 inning. Right. And so, like when we look at statistics for pitchers, it's such the win-loss record is almost inconsequential. It doesn't tell you anything about how they pitched because they rely on the team scoring runs, which they have no part of. Right.
Right. Well, they also are required to keep the other team from scoring runs, which I think is a big part of that, right?
Right. But like there have been tie games into, the 8th inning. Like if it's 1-1 in the 8th, I mean, whatever pitcher started that game and pitched 8 innings, that guy should get the win, right? Because it's
he gets no decision, right? He doesn't get the loss, but he doesn't get the win.
Right. But like I'm saying, I think a lot of the statistics in baseball are flawed, I think is what we're saying these days. Like that's a flawed statistic.
Now, a perfect game is a different story.
No base runners at all. That's
no hit, amazing. No base, 3 strikes per batter. Boom, boom, boom. Every batter.
It's also dependent on the defense behind you, right? So like there's a pitcher, there's 8 other guys on that field, right? So like you could try to throw a perfect game. And if somebody like fumbles a routine like lob,
shortstop doesn't throw to first fast enough.
Well, a perfect game, the ball's not going to get to the field. So the only person that can really mess it up is the catcher. If he doesn't catch the ball and it's a pass ball, but then there's nobody to get home. I'm guessing that wouldn't be a strike if it's a pass ball.
That's not a perfect game.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't remember.
A perfect game is no base runners at all.
No, I think a perfect game is you strike out every batter.
No, I don't think so.
Well, look it up.
It's just a perfect game is no hitters reaching base, right? So
correct. Yeah.
And that's a game that's entirely dependent on defense. And then if you look up, there's a fella, Armando Galarraga, pitched for Detroit, right? He was throwing a perfect game up to the 2nd out of a 9th inning, right? So he had 26 outs. Right. Got a guy to hit a ground ball to the first baseman. First baseman wasn't going to make it to the bag, so he tossed it to Galarraga, who was going to go to cover. Galarraga takes the bag a half a step in front of the runner. The guy was out. The umpire called him safe. It is one of the most horrible calls in the history of baseball, right? To take away because perfect game, like no hitters, we'll probably see 2-3 no hitters in a season, right? Perfect games, oh my God, those are rare. Right, you'll see one of those maybe every few years, maybe.
Yeah, they make the news for sure.
No hits, no walks, no errors by the defense.
Right.
So a pass ball, no opposing player reaches base, like you said, Chad. Pitcher's team wins the game, and the game lasts at least 9 innings.
Wait, they can't call it because of rain and have it turn out perfect?
Sorry, active nature.
So let's see. So, there was in the history of baseball, we've had over 100 World Series games, or over 100 total World Series.
Just series.
There has been one perfect game thrown in the World Series, which would have been amazing to see.
What year was that? 1919?
It was in the 50s.
Okay.
Yogi Berra got it.
So, gathering all these metrics now and having the cameras that pay attention to the movements of the players and the movements of the ball and all that stuff, it's taking all that data in. And then we've got, sabermetrics, Moneyball, putting AI behind that. What is that going to do?
So it struggle with it because, there's no role for generative AI in any of that, really, right? That's kind of not it.
Mascots.
But character or image recognition. So some of the imaging, I think, could genuinely help study stances, swings, that kind of thing. It could help batters a ton, I think, to have a model trained on various, like you're hitting the ball. You're swinging the bat, hundreds of times a year, and to have a model trained on your stance and everything else, and say, hey, this is where you are most effective. Your hands were here. They were here's where they were on the bat. Here's where your wrists were. Here's where your feet were. Here's how you're transferring your weight from front to back. Like all of that stuff, I think could help the offensive side of the game. On the defensive side, it's mostly statistics, right? And AI for statistical analysis, just do basic math, right? Like don't try to wedge AI into that.
Because there's already a ginormous amount of statistics being done. Do you think we'll see pitching machines that will pitch like the pitcher that you're going to face tomorrow?
That could be interesting. Yeah. That could be really interesting.
Yeah. Whoever does that should owe you like $1 million or something.
Well, especially if it's like
idea.
a Sony robot that actually mimics all the mechanisms of the pitcher all the way down, and you get to sort of see 5 or 6 different looks, and your brain will just get trained on it a little bit, maybe. I don't know. It's
interesting because that's a really cool idea. I think part of pitchers too is, have you heard of pitch tipping? Like he's tipping his pitches, right?
Right. Yeah.
Trevor May, former pitcher for the Twins, and Mets, Twins first though, has a wonderful YouTube series out where he talks about how somebody told him, like when he was traded to the Mets, one of the Mets players actually said, hey man, here's how I knew you were always going to pitch a slider, right? And it was because like he would have the ball in his glove, more of his hand would be in his glove or something because he was getting his grip just.
Yeah.
And he's like, so I always knew when I saw you do that, this is what was coming. And so it would be interesting to have an AI examine video and say like, hey, here's how this guy's going to tip his pitches. And that would help both ends, right? It'd be like a nuclear arms race. First, the batters would see it and they might adjust to it. And then the pitcher would get it and they're going to adjust to it. So like there might be like a 6-month edge for one side or the other.
One way or the other. And then when you see the batter stand like this, he's ready to face your fastball. But if you secretly tip fastball but throw slider, he's going to just be striking out and questioning his training and his sensei and everything.
Google Glasses, they're going to fire that program up again. So it tells you what kind of pitch is coming.
Well, 98-mile fastball.
That was part of it with Apple Watches. I think I don't know if it was the Red Sox or the part of the Astros thing before they started banging the trash cans. But Apple Watches they had something on an Apple Watch that players used to transmit the pitches, because there'd be a guy watching a camera and it would be transmitted to an Apple Watch, and then somebody would do something, and it was part of one of the cheating scandals. And that's one of the reasons why Rob or Manfred is still like, we don't love him, right? Because he did nothing for the Astros the cheating scandal. Right. I think he kicked out the GM of the Astros. That guy's coaching soccer in Europe now. And he suspended the managers for a year. Nothing for the players that were involved. And we've had a couple of Astros players on our team. We had Gonzalez the year after the cheating scandal, Marwin Gonzalez, and then we have Correa now, and Correa's a good player, but he was like deeply involved in that. So it's like, crap.
So no shoeless Joe Jackson scenarios.
No, and I've seen interviews with previous commissioners, and everybody else said we would have gotten them out of there immediately. Like every player involved, if there was a direct link from you to that scandal, you would have been out. So there'd be no Correa, there'd be no Altuve, there'd be no Marwin Gonzalez, there'd be like a handful of guys that would get lifetime bans.
Well, okay, let me ask this question though. If somebody bangs a trash can and you're not the bangy, but you're just the batter up there, and you can't really stop them from doing it, right?
I think certain players.
You think some of them were requesting more trash can banging?
I think that was kind of the thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought there was sports where they could penalize the players or penalize the team for the actions of the fans.
Well,
I mean,
baseball
we're talking
for sure.
Baseball for sure, yeah. Basketball, I think, does that, right? I think the fans can get a technical.
You can get a technical, yeah.
And I think
NFL football.
Yeah, I think that was a
kind of a technical, right?
I don't know there's not really aside from a team forfeiting a game, I mean, we're talking about like the Disco Inferno night in Detroit. Remember when they brought all the disco records?
Yep.
The fans rioted. The team had to forfeit the game.
They had to forfeit the second game of the doubleheader.
Yeah. So like, I don't think there's not going to be like, you're going to give a run to the other team because the fans did this. Right. I think in baseball, it's just, you're going to forfeit because of your fans. But yeah, I think it would have been more meaningful to see a stiffer penalty than just, these guys are kicked out for a year. Or I don't even think the GM was given a lifetime ban. I think he's mostly just unhireable now.
But isn't everybody in baseball trying to do that exact same? But let me take that back. Isn't everybody in all sports trying to steal signs, get an edge?
Everybody but Minnesota teams, right? Like we are,
right?
Of course,
pure as the driven snow.
But I think so. What's egregious about what the Astros did is that they built a system around it, right? So like, it's totally okay if you got a guy on second base staring at the catcher's glove, who is behind the batter. The guy on second base can tell the batter, like, yeah, that's a fastball, right? Like he could relay that sign. And then there's a whole coded system between the batter or between the catcher and the pitcher, or there used to be. Now they have this thing called pitch comp, where they've got like a little thing on the wrist and the pitcher's got a bug in his ear. So the catcher now just does something on his...
Wait, they're not doing signs anymore?
I don't think.
Oh, that's wrong.
So there's no signs to steal anymore. So the PitchCom system, however, I guarantee you that PitchCom system is wireless. Somebody is going to figure out how to intercept a signal at some
I'm sure they're
point.
using excellent SSL communication between the two devices. It wouldn't just be beeping a 400 megahertz signal or 900 megahertz. Like you put in one of those old wireless phones. You just listen for it to make a beep or two. I
think it's probably a security through obscurity thing where like it's a single use device, right? Like it's only being sold to major league teams and probably minor league teams so they can get used to it.
Right.
My guess is that whatever companies develop that, whatever's easiest.
So what about the third base coach? Is he just tapping on his wrist too?
I think they're still relaying signs to steal or whatever, right? They're still doing that to the runners.
Well, when does that go away? Is that the next
I don't think that has as much of an impact on the game as knowing which pitches are coming.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Wouldn't you want to know if somebody was stealing? Wouldn't that be easy to switch it to a fastball and then throw them out?
Yeah, I mean, so.
It's not 100%. Even if you know the guy's going to steal, it's still not 100%, right? Just like bunting. You can know the situation calls for a bunt, and 98% of the time they're going to bunt, but that doesn't mean that you automatically get them out at first if they bunt.
I don't disagree with you. Even knowing what pitch is coming, I mean, it helped the Astros, but it didn't help them. You still have to swing a round bat at a round ball, right?
Right.
It's still difficult. It's just marginally easier if you know what's coming.
Well, it helps the catcher too, because if you're throwing junk they're not expecting, it makes their life more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, the catcher's the one usually telling them what to throw. Yeah. So they should.
But if they don't throw that, if there's not good communication or they change their mind mid-pitch, like I used to do, and get yelled at by the catcher, it's okay. He got his revenge. He hit me in the face with a ball.
Oh, there you go.
It wasn't on purpose. Pretty sure.
A new cool use of technology, and this doesn't affect the game on the field, but there are teams implementing, like one of the things that they want to have happen, a baseball stadium is just like an airplane. They want to get people in there as fast as they can as efficiently as they can so that they can get them in front of the vendors super quick, right? So there's 3 teams now using AI at the gate so that if you have a ticket to a game, you can sign up for an app that will scan your face and you do nothing. You just walk into the stadium and AI recognizes who you are and lets you in without talking to anybody, without doing anything, without touching anything.
So you walk in the right
if I
door,
have a
they know
picture
not
of
to
you I'm
stop
holding
you.
up, will I get to sit in your seats?
If it's good enough to fool an iPhone's Face ID, it'd probably be good enough to fool the systems that they're using. But it's a neat little novel use of technology, and I'm kind of marveled at because it's already implemented in Philadelphia and I want to say Texas. I think it's the Rangers.
And they really just want to get you to your seat the fastest. They don't. That's their goal.
In the building.
They want to get you through the gate so you can start buying hot dogs and merchandise and candy and everything else as fast as you're not spending any money outside, Peter.
So then do they try to slow you down on the way out?
But even the home opener, the line to get in is not insane.
When gates open, you can wait like a half hour. I mean, and it's keep in mind, this is the Twin Stadium, right? Our stadium is the best in the league. Right. And we have 6 different entrances to the stadium, right? Yeah. So this isn't necessarily a Twins problem, but I think some of these older stadiums absolutely are going to have this problem, right? Fenway, Wrigley, all these other places, there's probably choke points there that this is going to be a huge, huge boon. I think it's, even if that's not really the reason, I think it is though. I think they just want you to get through the gate and they want you to start spending money, even if it's 15 minutes sooner.
Buy the program right away. Get it from the guy.
Yeah, all of it.
Get your peanuts and your popcorn. Cracker Jack.
Ice cold, malt cup, frosty malt.
Which is a new thing. This year I was at a couple of Twins games already. And last year, me and my buddy Greg Steer were really bummed that the guys coming up and down the aisles, they didn't do it last year. No guys coming up and down with cold beers.
Part of the flavor of the game.
Wait, what? They had no walking guys?
No guys going up and down, not at all.
You just put an order on your phone and they bring it to you?
That is an option for some seats, but for if you were in, if you weren't in the sections that had that,
you were in the family section.
Yeah, you had to go up and get your stuff. That's back this year. Also, this is one of the great things about our team is that we have one of the most gorgeous stadiums in the country, and the food options that we have at our stadium are far and above better than almost every other stadium out there. Every other stadium will have a couple of decent things on the menu. We've got Murray's Steaks there. We've got the Oliva, the Cubans, the Red Cow burgers that they have that grill strategically placed on the left field so that the smell wafts through the state. I swear to God, they did that intentionally because they know the direction the wind comes in and it just smells amazing. That third baseline, every seat there smells like bacon and burgers.
So let me ask this question. You've been to every ballpark or just many ballparks?
I've been to many. I haven't been to every. I try to knock a couple off a year.
Yeah. So you're speaking from serious experience here. This is not
absolutely 100%. We are. And this isn't just me being a homer. We do have the best, and we have the best ballpark. We have the best food. We have the best drinks. Yes. We have so many more options in our stadium. So I've been to Milwaukee a couple of times. I've been to the White Sox Stadium. I'm going to call it Comiskey, or not Comiskey. I lost it. But everything about our stadium is just the one that I want to get to that is supposed to be on par with ours is San Diego, Petco Park. Theirs is also right downtown in a smallish footprint, and it's supposed to be close to as good as ours. Nice. But I'm going to go to Oakland this year. I haven't been to Oakland Coliseum yet.
Oh, very cool.
It's the very last year you'll be able to do that. For this, no more baseball. So if you guys don't see me at the Saints game, it's because I am in Oakland. Twins play Oakland the same weekend that the Saints we go to.
You couldn't pick a different. You could watch Oakland play anybody. Doesn't have to be the Twins.
Ain't gonna happen. All right, gentlemen.
That's part of my magic is when I travel to see baseball, I want to see the Twins in different fields. I don't want to see.
You're not there for the field. You're there for the Twins and the field.
Yeah, I mean,
it's mostly the Twins.
It feels more special if I'm seeing my team play there.
And it's true, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
Anything else we want to chat about on our way out the door? Any parting thoughts?
Oh, there's so many more things. We'll have to do another baseball one soon.
I literally
All right.
only covered like 1/3 of what I had on my list here.
Yeah. So
Well, this is going to be
we'll get back to it.
This podcast is a preview for one of the for an SDG Presents, which, if you guys aren't from SDG, is a little internal thing that we do at our company where we can present interesting topics and ideas to our coworkers. So this whole thing is going to be part of that. But I literally only got through like 1/3 of what I was.
A little inside baseball there.
Oh, nice. Nice.
All right. Well, I think with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you guys.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.